She said it like she was stating the weather. No one wants me. Not bitter. Not dramatic. Just flat. Like she'd already checked the facts and closed the file. I remember because my hand froze on the screwdriver. The radio in the repair shop crackled and then went quiet, like it didn't want to interrupt either. For a second, all I could hear was the ceiling fan ticking and the smell of oil and dust hanging in the air. It was my third week working there. Small place. 2 bays. 1 desk that had seen better decades. She owned the shop. Everyone called her Kehdi, though I never knew if that was her real name or just something that stuck. Mid-40s, maybe more. Hair always tied back. Not careless. Not strict either. She wore confidence the way some people wear old jackets. Broken in, comfortable, not for show. She'd come in that afternoon because her car wouldn't start. I'd seen her before, from a distance, standing by the desk, leaning slightly forward when she talked, like she was listening even when she was the one explaining. She didn't rush her words. Didn't soften them either. I asked her to pop the hood. She did, then stayed. Most customers wandered off or stared at their phones. She didn't. She watched my hands instead. "You're new," she said. "Yeah." I wiped my fingers on a rag that wasn't doing much. Still learning where everything is. She smiled at that. Not the polite kind. Something small, almost private. While I checked the battery, she leaned against the frame, arms crossed loosely. Not defensive, just present. The shop light hit the side of her face, picking up lines that didn't look like age as much as use. Like she'd lived in them. That's when she said it. "No one wants me." I laughed, without thinking. A short sound. Wrong timing. I stopped immediately. She didn't look offended. She looked curious. "What?" she asked. "Sorry. I searched for something safe." "That doesn't sound true." She shrugged, slow. "You'd be surprised what starts sounding true after a while." I went back to the battery. Tightened something that didn't need tightening. Anything to avoid looking at her too directly. There was a pause where neither of us spoke. It stretched, not uncomfortable exactly, but charged. Like a wire you don't realize is live until you're already too close. Then she did something small. She handed me a bottle of water from her bag. No comment. Just held it out, waiting. Our fingers brushed. Barely. Still, I felt it all the way up my arm. I told myself it was just static. The fan. The heat. Anything normal. "Thanks," I said. She nodded once. Looked away first. I fixed the car. It was simple. Loose terminal. When I told her, she laughed quietly, shaking her head at herself. "Story of my life," she said. "Something small. Easily missed." She paid, even though I told her it wasn't much. Left a little extra on the counter. As she walked out, she stopped at the door. "You listen well," she said, not turning around. "That's rare." Then she left. The shop felt bigger after that. Too quiet. I kept replaying the way she'd said those words. Not fishing, not joking. Just stating a truth she'd learned to live with. That night, lying in bed, I realized it wasn't her sentence that stayed with me. It was the way she didn't wait for anyone to contradict it. The second time wasn't an accident. Her car didn't break down again. She came in with a box of old invoices under her arm and said the desk drawer at the shop jammed every winter. My boss waved at me with his chin and went back to his phone. "Help her out," he said. She watched me walk over, like she was measuring whether this was a good idea. Same hair tied back. Different shirt. Pale blue. Sleeves rolled just enough to show her wrists. I noticed her hands first this time. Long fingers, a small scar near the thumb. Someone who'd done things herself. "It sticks when you pull too fast," she said, already explaining, already keeping distance. I knelt by the desk. The drawer came out with a soft scrape. Dust puffed up. The space under there smelled like paper and old coffee. She stepped back, giving me room, but didn't leave. "You don't have to stay," I said, without looking up. "I know." A pause. "I want to." That sat between us longer than it should have. I worked slowly. Not because it was complicated. Because I could feel her attention on me, and it made my movements careful, deliberate. Like being watched by someone who actually sees details. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. Not tight. Just closed enough. "You're quiet," she said. "So are you," I replied. She let out a short laugh, surprised. It faded quickly, like she'd remembered something. I wasn't always, she said. Then, almost immediately, the drawer. Can it be fixed, or should I replace it? Guarded again. Efficient. She had a way of pulling back the moment she'd stepped forward. It's fine, I said. Just swollen wood. Weather does that. She nodded, like that explanation made sense beyond furniture. As I tightened the last screw, I noticed the dark circles under her eyes. Not dramatic. Just there. Someone who slept lightly. Or not enough. When she shifted her weight, she winced, barely. You okay? I asked. She hesitated. Not long. Just enough to register. Long day, she said. Long years, maybe. She smiled after, like she'd said too much and was smoothing it over. I stood up, wiped my hands, suddenly aware of how close we were. The desk between us felt thinner than it had before. Try it now, I said. She pulled the drawer. Smooth. No resistance. She looked genuinely relieved, like the fix was more than mechanical. Thank you, she said. Softer this time. Our eyes met. Not a glance. A held thing. I noticed how her smile didn't quite reach one side of her mouth. How she breathed out slowly, like she'd been holding something in. She reached for the invoices, then stopped. Her hand hovered, unsure, before resting on the desk instead. You know, she said quietly, not quite looking at me. Some things only stick when you rush them. I didn't answer. I couldn't find one that wouldn't give me away. She gathered the papers and walked toward the door. Halfway there, she turned back. And for the record, she added, almost casually, I didn't say that thing last time because I wanted reassurance. I know, I said. She studied my face, like she was checking if that was true. Then she nodded once and left. The drawer slid shut behind her with a soft, final sound, and I stood there longer than necessary, wondering why it felt like something had just been opened instead. It was raining, the kind of rain that makes decisions for you. The shop was supposed to close early that night, but the power kept flickering and my boss had already left, muttering something about generators and headaches. She stayed. Said she didn't like driving in storms. Said it casually, like weather was the only reason. We sat at the desk with the lights dimmed, one lamp on between us. The rest of the shop disappeared into shadow. Outside, rain hit the metal roof in uneven bursts, loud enough that conversation had to slow down, lean closer to be heard. She'd ordered food. Nothing fancy. 2 containers, still warm. We ate with plastic forks, knees almost touching under the desk. Almost. You don't have to keep me company, she said, halfway through, like the thought had just occurred to her. I don't mind, I said, then added, quieter, I'd be here anyway. She nodded, eyes on her food. Took a sip of water. Her hands shook slightly, just enough that she noticed, and wrapped them around the bottle tighter. You ever feel like, she started, then stopped. Pressed her lips together. Like things are off by a few degrees. I waited. Didn't rush her. She exhaled through her nose. Never mind. No, I said. I get that. She looked up then. Really looked. The lamp caught the tiredness in her eyes, the way she was holding herself upright instead of comfortable. My phone's been buzzing all evening, she said, almost apologetic. I didn't want to answer. Right on cue, it vibrated again on the desk. She flinched. Didn't reach for it. You can't, I said. She hesitated, then turned the screen face down. The name had flashed long enough for me to see it. A man's name. Familiar. Heavy. It's complicated, she said. Old habits. I nodded, even though something tight settled in my chest. I focused on the rain, on the sound of it filling the pauses. I should probably go, she said, not moving. Before I do something stupid. Or before the weather decides for me. I smiled at that, but it came out thin. Yeah, probably. We stood at the same time. Too fast. Chairs scraped. For a second, we were closer than we'd been all evening. I could smell rain on her clothes, something clean underneath. She looked up at me, then down again, like eye contact had suddenly become dangerous. Thank you, she said. For not pushing. I wouldn't, I said. I meant it. That was the problem. The power flickered again. The lamp dimmed, came back. In that brief darkness, her hand brushed my arm. Not accidental. Not entirely deliberate either. She didn't pull away immediately. Her phone buzzed again. She stepped back this time, creating space with effort. Picked up her bag. "Good night," she said. "Drive safe." She paused at the door, hand on the handle. Turned just enough that I could see her face in profile. "You make it harder," she said softly. Not accusing. Almost tired. "For you?" I asked, before I could stop myself. She didn't answer. Just looked at me, like the answer was sitting between us, obvious and unsayable. Then she opened the door and let the rain rush in, cold and loud. And for one reckless second, I almost reached for her wrist. Almost, before the door closed and left me standing there with my hand half raised, wondering which of us had been saved by the interruption. The silence didn't arrive suddenly. It crept in over days. She stopped coming by the shop for small reasons. No stuck drawers. No casual questions. When she did show up, it was quick, business only, polite, distant, like she'd redrawn the map and I was no longer on it. I told myself that was normal, that whatever had almost happened in the rain had been filed away where almost things belong. Then one evening, just before closing, she came back. No car trouble, no folder, just her, standing in the doorway like she wasn't sure she was allowed to be there anymore. "Do you have a minute?" she asked. I nodded and locked the door without asking why. The shop felt different without the hum of work. Too still, every sound magnified. Her footsteps, my breathing, the click of the lock. She didn't sit. Neither did I. For a while, we just stood there. The kind of quiet that presses on your ears. "This can't keep happening," she said finally. I waited. Let her choose her words. "I don't know what this is," she continued, staring at the floor. "But I feel it when I wake up. I feel it when I come here. And I don't like not understanding myself." Her hands were clasped in front of her. Tight. Knuckles pale. "I haven't done anything," I said. "I know," she replied quickly. Too quickly. "That's not what I mean." She looked up then, held my gaze longer than she had ever allowed herself to. "I'm not confused about you," she said. "I'm confused about me." The way she said it, no drama, no softness, made my chest ache. "You're young," she added, like she was reminding herself of a fact she couldn't argue with. "You're kind, and you listen, and somehow that's become dangerous." I swallowed. "I don't want to be." She smiled at that. A sad, tired thing. "That's the problem." Another pause. Longer this time. The shop light buzzed faintly overhead. "I keep thinking," she said, quieter now, "that if I name it, it'll disappear. Or turn into something manageable. But every time I try, it just feels bigger." I shifted my weight, stopped myself from stepping closer. "So what are we doing?" I asked. My voice didn't sound like mine. She exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding that breath for days. "I think," she said, "we're standing in something that shouldn't exist, and pretending it's harmless because we haven't touched." She glanced at my hands. I noticed because I followed her gaze without meaning to. "I don't trust myself around you," she finished. "Not because of what I want, but because of what I don't want to lose." The words landed heavy, final. I wanted to say something reassuring, something noble, something that would make this easier for her. Instead, all I could manage was, "What do you need?" She looked at me then. Really looked. Eyes bright, jaw tight, like she was balancing on the edge of a decision she'd already made. "I need you," she said softly. "To stop looking at me like this means something." The silence that followed was absolute. She picked up her bag, walked past me without brushing my arm, without hesitation this time. At the door, she paused, not to turn back, not to reconsider, just enough to say, almost to herself, "Because I don't think I could survive being wrong about that." The voicemail wasn't meant for me. I know that because she never sent it. She left it open on the counter by accident, screen lit, voice frozen mid-sentence like a held breath. I only noticed because she went into the back room to take a call and asked me, carefully, formally, to wait. The shop was quiet again, not tense like before. Worse, neutral, like something after a decision. Her phone buzzed once. Then again. I didn't touch it. I shouldn't have looked. But the screen stayed on, stubborn, like it wanted to be seen. A photo first. An old one. Faded edges. A younger man standing in front of the same shop, before the paint, before the second bay. Same crooked smile I'd seen in the reflection of the glass sometimes. Same way of standing, weight on one leg, hands unsure of what to do. My stomach dropped in a slow, quiet way. Then the voicemail resumed on its own, volume low but clear enough. I thought I was done missing you, her voice said, softer than I'd ever heard it. Not guarded, not careful. But then someone laughed today the way you used to, and it felt like the floor moved. I didn't listen past that. I couldn't. I stepped back like I'd crossed a line physically, not just emotionally. When she came back, she saw my face before I could fix it. You heard, she said. Not accusing, just stating. I didn't mean to, I replied. It sounded inadequate. She nodded and picked up the phone, turned it face down this time. Her shoulders sank, just a little, like she'd finally put something down. That was my husband, she said. I waited. He died 8 years ago, she added. Car accident. Not dramatic. Just sudden. I didn't say I was sorry. It felt too small. She leaned against the counter, eyes on the floor. Everyone assumes time solves that. It doesn't. It just makes it quieter. The shop light hummed. Somewhere outside, a car passed. Normal life continuing. You remind me of him, she said, finally looking at me. Not how you look, how you listen, how you don't rush to fill space. Something inside me shifted, slow and deep. Not jealousy, not relief. Understanding. That's not fair to you, she added quickly. I know that. It doesn't feel like that, I said. It feels like. I walked into a room that was already full. She smiled then. A real one. Sad but honest. I never cleared it, she said. I just kept the door closed. We stood there, the truth between us now, named, solid, unmovable. It didn't fix anything. It explained everything. I didn't come back to start something, she said. I came back to understand why stopping felt like losing him all over again. I nodded. My chest felt tight, but steady. And now? I asked. She stepped closer, not touching, close enough that I could see the faint tremor in her hands. Now, she said quietly, I know why I can't ask you to stay. She reached out, not to me, but to straighten the collar of my shirt. A small, careful gesture. Almost nothing. Almost everything. For the first time, she whispered, I want something I know I shouldn't take. Her hand dropped. She stepped back. And in that space she created, I understood the shift she hadn't warned me about. This wasn't about whether we could begin. It was about whether we were strong enough not to. It didn't happen the way moments are supposed to. No dramatic return. No knocking on doors in the rain. Just an ordinary afternoon a week later, when the shop smelled like coolant and dust, and something burned faintly in the back. I was closing up when I saw her car pull in, slow, deliberate, like she'd already decided and was just following through. She didn't say why she was there. Neither did I ask. We stood side by side at the counter, not facing each other this time. The distance between us felt different, less charged, more honest. Like the truth had taken up space and pushed everything else out. I've been quiet, she said. Yes, I answered. Not because I don't care. A pause. But because I finally do. I nodded. My throat felt tight, but not sharp. Just full. She traced a line on the counter with her finger. Absent. Grounding herself. I keep thinking about what you said. About walking into a room that was already full. I waited. I don't want to replace anyone, she continued. And I don't want to pretend you're temporary just because that would be easier to explain. The words landed gently. No defense. No warning signs. I don't need you to promise anything, she said. I just need to stop lying to myself about what's already here. I turned then. Looked at her properly. The tiredness was still there, but something else sat beneath it now. Resolve, maybe. Or acceptance. I'm not trying to save you, I said. And I don't want to be compared to anyone. I know, she replied. That's why this is possible. We didn't move closer right away. We stood there, letting the shop sounds fill the gaps. A distant horn. Footsteps outside. Normal life pressing in, unimpressed by our small, careful shift. She sat on the stool behind the counter, slow, like she was testing whether it would hold her weight. I sat beside her, leaving a respectful inch between us. After a moment, her hand slid onto the counter, palm down. Still, waiting. I placed mine next to it. Not touching. She inhaled, steady. Then, without looking at me, she let her fingers drift sideways until they brushed mine. Light. Questioning. I didn't grab her hand. I didn't pull away. I turned my palm up. She rested her fingers there, just the tips. Like that was enough to say what we weren't saying. We sat like that for a long time. No rush. No fear. Just two people choosing not to run. I don't know where this goes, she said quietly. I don't need to, I replied. Her head leaned toward mine. Not resting. Just close enough that I could feel the warmth. Our foreheads almost touched. Almost. The shop light flickered once, then steadied. Outside, someone laughed. A car drove past. The world kept moving. And for the first time since I'd met her, nothing in me wanted more than what was already happening. We stayed. I'm telling this from a quieter place. Not because everything turned simple afterward, but because some things finally stopped fighting to be named. It's been months since that first afternoon, since she said, "No one wants me," like a closed door, and I stood there holding a screwdriver, not knowing my life had just tilted a few degrees. When I think about it now, what stays with me isn't the tension or the almosts. It's the patience, the way nothing rushed us into becoming something we weren't ready to carry. We didn't announce anything. We didn't explain ourselves to people who wanted clean sentences and timelines. We just kept choosing the same space. Coffee that went cold because neither of us remembered to drink it. Long drives without music. Silence that didn't ask to be filled. She changed in small ways first. She slept better. Not longer, just deeper. She stopped apologizing before speaking. Started leaving drawers half open instead of fixing everything immediately. Once, I caught her humming while locking up the shop, like she'd forgotten she wasn't alone in her head anymore. I changed too, though it took me longer to notice. I stopped needing answers in advance. Stopped measuring my worth by whether I was wanted or chosen or necessary. Being with her taught me something uncomfortable and grounding at the same time. Love isn't the feeling that pulls you forward. It's the steadiness that keeps you from running. We never said, "I love you," the way movies teach you to. The words arrived quietly one night, months in, spoken like a fact neither of us needed proof for. By then, they felt almost redundant. The love had already been doing its work. Sometimes she still talks about her husband. Not with pain, with gratitude. I listen, not like a replacement, not like a shadow, but like someone trusted with a full story. The room isn't full anymore. It's just honest. As for me, I learned that wanting someone doesn't have to feel like hunger. It can feel like rest. Like sitting beside someone while the world moves on without demanding anything from you. The shop is still there. Same desk. Same drawer. It slides smoothly now, but every winter it sticks just a little, reminding me how close I came to mistaking friction for a warning instead of an invitation to slow down. If there's anything this story taught me, it's this. Some connections don't arrive to save you or ruin you. They arrive to teach you how to stay. And sometimes, that's everything. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?